Maggie.
Hello.
Hello, how are you doing?
Well, I've had a bit of a mystery tour, a Beatles experience on a bus. Um, yeah, I went into Birmingham city centre, came out a completely different route that I've never been on in the whole of my life.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was interesting. With a lot of other puzzled people just going, what's going on?
Well, your band, Fuzzbox, that became around by accident, really, didn't it? So it was like never really a planned thing. So what happened there?
Do you mean at the very beginning?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the very beginning. Yeah.
But it wasn't quite an accident. It was more like I think it was Sundays. What young people don't understand about Sundays back in the 80s was
Mm,
that nothing happened on a Sunday.
mm,
Absolutely nothing. Unless you were like me, part of a Catholic community. You went to church, but all the shops were shut and there was absolutely nothing going on. And so when we were offered, well, we weren't offered actually, we forced us
Okay.
onto this poor band because they said, oh, we're playing at the barrel organ on Sunday, do you want to come along, but we haven't got a support band. And so I was with my sister in a nightclub, and I just looked at her and I just went, we'll do something, you know,
Mm,
just to alleviate the boredom of a Sunday. That's what it
mm. Yeah.
is. So how dreadful could it be in comparison to watching songs of praise? I'm just saying. So we said we'd do it, and then the dreadful reality of what we'd thought was really, really good fun on, a Wednesday thing, by Sunday had become an actual reality. And so we rehearsed for 3 hours beforehand. Vix had got a song that she'd written, I think, when she was 10. Um, no joke. Um, And so we borrowed my then boyfriend's band's instruments
Mm,
and nicked one of their songs. And well, it was a cover, so technically it's just reinterpreted.
yeah.
Um, and then off we went.
So you're basically just covering a band that had had to cancel at the last minute, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know what had happened to their support band.
Mm.
Do you know? I'd love to know. Poor people. If they were reflecting back, thinking, "Oh my God, this was a slide
Mm,
doors moment,"
mm.
where the zeitgeist was like in our favor, and we just, had to go and see, Grant
Yeah.
Molly or something.
Uh,
Um, who knows? But
mm.
when I think back, it was mad. Absolutely mad. You couldn't, somebody put this as a script. So here's the thing, we've got these four girls from Birmingham. They're bored on a Sunday afternoon, so they think what we'll do is we'll form a band and then they get signed at their second gig. No
Mm.
one would buy that.
Yeah, it's going back to your band name. Obviously, that's a reference to Fuzzbox,
Mhm.
the actual modulator pedal thing. How much did you actually use it in the show?
In the first one,
Yeah.
on everything, um, because it hides a multitude of sins.
Mm,
And so yeah, it was on everything, and it
mm,
covered up for the fact that we couldn't play amazingly well, but also it was
mm.
very fashionable to use it at the time.
Mm. Okay. And how did the following gigs come about? How many gigs did you get from that?
So the original bands that we supported, who were called the Bang Sisters, um, they had another gig later that year. I think it was in September or August. August, was it? Anyway, yeah, I think it was August or September. And so they asked if we would support them again because it had gone down so well the first time. I don't think they could believe it, poor thing. But so we said yes, we'd do it. And our second gig, I would actually argue, was worse than our first.
Was it?
But in the interim, what had happened was that word had got round about this female band who had a violinist in it. Now, I can't remember the quote now, but sort of exaggerations have been made. And to describe any of us as a violinist was a gross misrepresentation. Was actually going on. It was somebody sort of doing that through X pedal, but I think it was quite good, so it was, we embraced it. It wasn't our idea, it was my ex-boyfriend's, but so we gravitated to it and we absolutely loved it. So we did that, and so that got back to Rob Lloyd of the Nightingales, who thought he could come and steal one of us for his band. When he saw the actual reality, he realised that wasn't possible. But then somehow saw the possibility within us. And he phoned me. This is honest to God, this conversation actually happened. So I pick up the phone and somebody said, "Oh, I think your band is really great. Would really like you to sort of do a demo." I was like, "Yeah, of course, yeah." And then they sort of go on, so if that demo is successful, we'll sign you to our record label. And it's like, oh great, that sounds fantastic, that does. And so he said, "Well, when do you think you can get it done by?" And I just went, "Who the fuck is this?" You've had your laugh now.
Yeah.
So just fuck off. But I was laughing, not horribly, it's not just like being awful. But when it turned out to be true, I was just like, oh my God, this is mad. And I at the time, I didn't even know what a demo tape was. I didn't know what it was. And so I'd said yes. And then off we popped, and we did a demo tape and we sent it. And then we got signed. I mean, seriously, just like that.
It's like
Mad.
Well, I mean, you start stuff, did it just for a bit of a laugh, really, but obviously after that, you must take it a bit more seriously. So, how did the songwriting
No, we
work?
didn't really.
Yeah, no. But did you get organised in terms of like songwriting, and how did all that work out?
Well, we did then start songwriting. And then something really interesting happened.
Mm,
It seemed that these four young women who
mm,
had gathered over a love of music
mm,
and, sort of just wanting to do something a bit different, turned out to have some songwriting talent.
mm.
Sort of again, the collision of the stars and the universe. Um, and we wrote rules and regulations and
Mm,
XXX, after that demo, so
mm,
virtually directly after.
mm.
Um, and so it just seemed to be something that we were naturally good at. We were all big music fans.
Yeah.
So in a way, it was kind of not surprising in some regards.
Were you surprised about the success you had?
Truthfully,
Mm,
we just thought it was one big, like, not joke, but just like, how long can we keep this going for? Because
before people find you
a
out.
couple of
Yeah.
weeks, so we're going to be found out.
Mm,
We're just going to be found out for the charlatans that we actually are. It kept going.
mm,
It just kept going. And then we kept growing as well as
mm.
friends. So it was quite a beautiful thing, really, when I think back. Uh,
Yeah.
and we didn't take it seriously. And I think that was, part of our charm,
Mm,
but also part of our success. Imagine
yeah.
if we'd been trying really, really hard,
Mm,
sort of just keeping on trying and trying and then getting knocked back. Because when we got
mm.
knocked back, we were just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right then, mate. So let's see how long, sort of we keep
Yeah.
going.
But
And
you
I
say
think,
that, but I mean, other people have mentioned different band members in, about how skillful you were at certain things, So, you've been mentioned a lot of times, especially Joe, your sister, that was, a really, really good bass player. Apparently, she got a lot of plaudits as well, didn't she?
well, she was a really good guitarist.
Mm,
It sort of she got loads of plaudits from people.
mm,
So Billy, what's his name from the Cult, when we were on Top of the Pops,
mm,
went up to her and went, "Oh my God, I'm such a fan of you." And the rest of us were just thinking, "Oh, here's somebody else just taking the piss."
mm,
But he wasn't.
mm,
He was just like, don't learn, technique too much. You keep your own style. Um, the naivety that you have.
mm.
Once you learn something, you can't unlearn it.
Yeah.
And he was actually encouraging her to sort of develop her own style.
Mm.
And we were there, just like, this is actually happening. This is real. Just
Yeah, yeah.
but Dave Wakeling from General Public and the
Mm,
Beat,
mm,
her guitar playing, and when we were recording at Martin Russian's Genetic, um, so they were recording, we were recording in one studio, they were in another,
mm,
and Dave actually asked to speak to Joe, and we were like, "You what? You
mm.
joking me?" And she was out over there jamming with like proper musicians, and we were like, "Huh?" It was just extraordinary.
Mm,
But then, sort of, because we're writing a book and we're probably going to be doing a documentary, and
mm,
waxing back, and I listened to her, and she really did have a style of her own,
mm,
completely of her own. And that is really difficult to have.
mm. Yeah.
It's almost God given, sort of to have. a unique talent like that.
Mm. I sometimes think that being the bass player is the hardest part of the job because you're not prominent, but you bridge all the other sides of the music, so they can
That
say,
me and
yeah,
Tina. Um, but the bass, the back line
mm,
is what keeps the band moving forward.
mm,
And if you ask any band to just play without drums, it's really difficult.
yeah,
If you ask them to play without a bass player, it's problematic.
mm,
Um, but obviously there are folk musicians that will play without drums because they've got,
yeah. I just think stinks, yeah.
yeah. Um, but sort of it is, sorry, um, it is, sort of difficult when, sort of nobody, initially nobody had the role of being completely bass player or
Mm,
completely guitarist or completely, the only one that was established was Vix as lead singer. So
yeah.
we'd all move between the instruments. And when I reflect back on that, I think once, because we got to know what it meant to be the drummer, what it
Mm,
meant to be the bass player, excuse me, we understood those roles. So it actually made for us to be much more rounded
mm,
musicians
yeah.
because, sort of a lot of people don't get to do that.
So as a band, I mean, obviously, you're one of the few all-female bands, and you're all very attractive. And you worked on TV shows and that sort of thing. And also, I mean, it's been well publicized since that there's a lot of sort of sexual predators about at the time. Did you have any experiences about that you'd like to chat about?
I think most young women are very attractive,
Mm,
sort of, and I do appreciate that, sort of by coincidence, there were a couple of, well, not a couple, that we were all, sort of fairly pretty girls.
mm,
Um, and I wouldn't say any of us was like an out and out stunner, but sort of we were, not we were nice looking girls looking back.
yeah.
Um, but what was the question? Sorry.
So, did you ever meet or come across any proper
Oh,
like?
the predators.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, they were everywhere, to be
mm,
honest. Um, sort of the first show that we ever sort of did in the UK was a children's TV show,
mm,
and the presenter chased us around in a not very pleasant way, but um, there was, the attitudes of what was acceptable behavior back
mm,
then, quite different from now, you know.
yeah.
Um, but that said, rape is virtually decriminalized in this country.
Mm,
So it it's been sublimated, that
mm,
misogyny has been sublimated.
mm,
Whilst it's not acceptable to be overtly misogynistic,
mm.
and I think more, I can't find the word, insidious maybe.
You think it's more difficult for them to report things and take it seriously and that sort of thing?
Yeah, and sort of it goes undercover now.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like woohoo and sort of fill your bum or something.
Mm,
Sort of a lot of men will wait now until you're vulnerable
I see. Yeah.
or alone. And but there's a problem between the sexes that
Mm,
and literally the big thing for women is that if we get attacked, raped, have non-consensual sex, because there are differences between all of those categories.
Mm.
Not only are we expected now to have contraception, which is a really big topic in female health, because it looks like it does a lot of damage.
Mm.
We're expected to take on that role, but we're also expected to literally be left holding the baby,
Mm.
like, or making decisions about stuff. So it's very different, as Joe Jackson said, it's very different for girls.
Mm.
It really, really is. Just on a practical biological level, it's
Yeah.
just very, very different.
You said before that you had a lot of catcalling from the audience as well, didn't you, when you played quite a few times?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, so get your tits out.
Mm.
You know, so I think it was in Stoke or Burton-on-Trent or somewhere like that. And I
Mm.
just went to one of the guys. Well, tell you what, you come up on stage and get your dick out,
Mm.
and I'll get my tits out. How does that sound? And of course,
No, they backed up.
no.
But I like the fact that I mean, you said before, so I've talked to you before, obviously, but you had an interview with Just 17 magazine, and one of the big things you did was to turn up with no makeup on, just to show that you can be beautiful without having to do all that.
Wasn't the intention that we would look spectacularly lovely without makeup. In
Mm.
fact, what we did was we scraped our hair back and just like, you know, sort of just pulled awful faces, and just to show that we didn't wake up in the morning looking lovely. I think
Mm.
when you're young, you
Mm.
imagine that there are these like creatures of female beauty that, you know, sort of 24/7, they look absolutely beautiful, you
Mm.
know, all day, every day. And we just wanted to show that that wasn't the case.
Mm.
You know, work goes into that. And that, you know, if you've got spots, which, you know, sort of just 17, come on, you're going to. Uh,
Mm.
there's something called makeup that can help you if that's how you want to look.
Mm.
Um, you know, we had Joe in the band who wore minimal makeup,
Mm.
and you could do that too. I mean,
Yeah,
the only reason that she wore makeup was anti-shine against the camera.
yeah,
You know, so if that it was a, you know, a lighting issue more than a beauty issue.
yeah.
And then, you know, sort of Tina would wear tons of the stuff, as would Vix. And
Mm.
I would wear sort of, I mean, I haven't, it's awful, but I've hardly changed my makeup routine since then. You know,
Mm.
I will wear a kind of like enhanced look, but
Mm.
rarely will I wear tons of makeup. And the reason for that is I don't really suit it. If you
Mm.
put loads of makeup on me, I look like a drag queen.
So, yeah. Well, you've been on top of the pops quite a few times, haven't you? So, I mean, how many times? Like about 9 times, 6 times?
And it depends technically. So technically, I think it's 10 times if
Is
you
it 10 times? Yeah.
videos.
Mm.
I think it's 9 times physically.
Yeah.
I'm wrong, but I think it's 9 times physically.
And how did you find it? Because I mean, we all see it on TV, or you see it on TV.
Boring. Boring.
Is it?
Except for when we decided that we'd write notes to other bands, because
Mm.
you basically got locked into what looked like you know, your changing room for the gym
Mm.
at school. I mean,
Mm.
you get locked in there. You're not allowed out because too many bands were taking drugs or getting absolutely hammered.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You do that, right? Um, and so we wrote notes to other bands like, you know, sort of, Dear Simply Red, you
Mm.
smell Signed, Sheena Easton.
Were
Stuff.
you ever found out?
Huh?
Were you ever found out?
I think they knew who it was.
Right, okay, so
They worked out who it was. But, you know, sort of people, I remember being next door to
mm,
and we sent, you know, sort of Tina around to knock on the door. It was really funny because, like I said, it's like a changing room. So you hear this clip, clop, clip, clop, clip, clop,
mm,
knock on the door, the note going under, then the footsteps going towards the door of
mm.
and then you can't quite hear because they're reading it out, and
Yeah.
then them just pissing themselves laughing. But we were, and we still are, you know, funny women, you know,
Yeah.
so we didn't take it seriously. I've only just recently learned that apparently French and Saunders were fans of ours.
Oh, really?
No,
Yeah.
loved, I'd have loved that. I'd have absolutely loved it. In fact, Vix and I were saying who would play who.
Mm,
And so we thought Jennifer Saunders would play me and Dawn French would play Vix.
mm.
Uh, and then sort of Kathy Burke would play Joe. And then we hadn't, and Bubble, what was her name? Jane Horrocks would play Tina. And,
Right.
you know, sort of that's how it should have been, you know. So,
Yeah.
although I wouldn't have minded who, to be honest, but
Mm,
I'd have loved that if we'd have got that, you know.
mm,
That would have just been because I loved French and Saunders and still do. I think they're really, really talented.
mm,
Um, but what an honor because you know the Sonia on what was that program when Jennifer Saunders, not Jennifer, Dawn French did Sonia
mm,
screen thing. Oh, it was just one of the funniest things you've ever seen. You know, so,
mm.
you ever been it was just amazing. And I'd love to have been mocked to that level. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? To see how other people actually really see you. Uh,
Yeah.
and not in a malign way, but in, you know, you know, just like, well, you've got these quirks and, you know, sort of, and it's not a nasty thing to happen to you. It really,
No.
really isn't. It's very affectionate. And you know, so we all take the piss out of our best mates, don't we?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for definitely, yeah.
You know, so if you just and that's because it is funny. We all have our own little quirks and foibles. And yeah, but yeah, I'd have loved that. Absolutely loved
Well, one of your songs that you did was a cover version of a Yoko Ono song, the "Walking on Thin Ice" one,
it.
and I loved it myself. Did you think though that because Yoko's one of those people that keep getting maligned for different,
Mm.
and she gets blamed for the Beatles breakup, which I don't think is true at all. It's just happened. It would happen anyway. And they all went different ways, different ways of doing it in different ways. What do you think about
I think it's absolute bollocks that she broke
that?
up with Beatles.
Yeah.
Um, like four really successful men in the 60s would just kowtow to some
Mm.
Japanese bint.
Mm.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Honestly? You believe that, do you? Oh, right. Okay. Well, then no. Um,
No.
but I think people wanted to hate Yoko because
Mm.
she came from a completely different culture.
Mm.
She was an artist in her own right. And also, she had this weird take on things. You know, she was pre-punk.
Mm. Yeah.
She was doing punk before the punk people were doing it. Um, and sort of to deny her undeniable talent. You either she is Marmite. You either
Mm,
completely love her, or you just think, what the actual is going on here? But I absolutely love her. I
mm,
a dance album, I can't remember the title of it, but you just think, flipping hell, this woman
mm.
doing dance music at her age. Um, it's no fear.
Yeah.
And that I admire. And
Mm,
also, here's the thing, right? She could obviously see something of herself in us, because any Yoko cover that you do
mm.
has to go to her for approval, because
Ah,
we
okay.
approved ours.
Yeah.
We have the stamp of the Yoko.
Brilliant.
I'm really, really proud of. When you admire an artist and you get their approval, that's
Yeah.
quite something. It's different from record sales, and I'm not
Mm,
saying that I haven't appreciated everyone who's bought one of my records, because I do. I really,
mm,
really do. But then you've got your own sort of little special things that you think, oh my God.
yeah, for definite. Yeah. One of my music heroes, Martin Ware from Ever 17, once sent an email to Vince Clarke on my behalf, and he just said he wants to get in touch. He's okay, and that to me was like worth like 1,000 other things. He's okay.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly. It's just
Mm,
little our own little peculiarities,
mm,
So I once commented, because one of my favorite songs is Tears Run Rings
mm,
by Mark Almond, and he's a friend of a friend of mine. And I put that, so because they posted Tears Run Rings, and I said
yeah.
lyrics to this remain as relevant, sadly remain as relevant now as when they were first written.
Mm.
And it's true that they do. And he came back with like a little post back, and I was just like, oh my God, Mark Comment, oh my God, proper
Uh,
fan.
I know it's great, isn't it? So, well, you eventually got signed to Warner Brothers, didn't you? So, how did that come about?
um well, we were signed to Vindaloo, and then
Mm,
we had a kind of a period where we were looking for a major record deal.
mm,
And there was an actual fight between all the major record labels for us. And we were at this gig, and there were like the head of everybody was at the back of this gig. And then they somehow, I don't know, sorted it out. And WEA decided that they were going to sign us. Um, but subsequent, I thought it was Rob Dickens who was the person that did
mm.
that. But researching for the book, it may well have been Bill Drummond from KLA,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
which would make more sense.
Mm,
Um, so because he and my sister were quite close. But at one point, don't know how long she was gay, so not close like that, but sort of musically
mm,
close. Um, so I'm not sure the exact history of it.
mm,
Isn't that peculiar that you don't
mm,
know your own?
mm. But when you signed to them, did they have? Because obviously you were quite sort of punky, at the time, and you went a little bit more sort of mainstream music wise. I think you still kept the same attitude, though. I think you kept that same attitude and the same sort of like aggression, not aggression, but you know what I mean. There's like a sort of
Sassy.
yeah, sass thing, yeah. There. Did they try to alter you at all when they came to you?
They tried various techniques, of which zero worked.
Yeah, so
Um, sort of, what's that saying? You can take the girl out of Sheldon, but not Sheldon out of the girl.
mm,
Um, we were just working class Brummy girls. Vix was a bit more middle class, but we had an attitude, and that was it, sort of. And we used to love sort of leading them down, some sort of route, where we knew eventually they'd be cornered and they wouldn't be able to get out. So just by often agreeing with stuff, just like going, oh yeah, so like for Irish Pride. So yeah, a woman who's beaten up, perhaps she could be in a wheelchair. Oh, oh yes, says the record company. Yeah. And we're going, yeah. And maybe some crutches, because so she needs crutches to get on with her life. And they're going, oh yeah. And then going, and then an eye patch to cover up her black eye, whatever, and they're going, oh yeah. And then we just go, fuck off, you stupid cunt.
Were you dealing with the American side of this or the English side, just out of interest? Were you dealing with the American side or the English
Oh,
side?
just the English
I
side,
was going to
but
say the
honestly,
Americans would have been
something.
like mortified by that, wouldn't they? So,
Oh, it's just honestly, they just didn't know what to do, because I'm going, yeah, yeah, and maybe this and maybe that. So and Joe one time, because they were talking about tattoos, false tattoos, and just like, and we were just not enamored with it. And just went, yeah, false tattoos, and sort of all these slogans. And she just went, yeah, and maybe I could just have cunt written.
So-
There, just like on the floor laughing. What's they were looking in absolute horror at the teenage girls being really irreverent, being like the young ones, really, so just, and not caring, just not caring. And
yeah.
they were so used to, sort of obviously women being these polite, middle class, university educated, sort of quoting from I don't know who. But so we weren't that, we weren't. And also we had this, sort of, we loved being a bit annoying. That was one of our favorite things. We
Yeah.
knew we were being annoying. We knew it. We knew that people were getting irritated.
So,
Psychopathic way, we were just like, yeah, we're on it now. We're doing it right. We're actually doing it right. But sort of, it was just so, and we had fun, sort of fun at their expense.
yeah.
And is that such a wrong thing?
Well, the videos, I think they spent a lot of money on the videos, didn't they? I mean, just looking at things
Oh
like,
yeah, 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 on our behalf.
oh yeah, you pay for it eventually, of course, through your royalties, but I mean, Pink Sunshine. How many balloons were actually in that studio?
Apparently thousands and thousands. But I I had arranged somebody called, oh God, I can't remember. Um, he did Bill and Ted's Bogus Adventure, and he did The Borrowers, and he was a young director, and he was going to do the video for £5,000. I think we paid £200,000,
Fucking hell! Wow.
and there was going to be an elephant in our version.
Right. Well, I mean, the car was held up on wires. I mean, did you have any worries about that at all?
Yeah, I'm frightened of heights, so it took about an hour to get me in there.
Bloody hell! So £200,000 you paid for that yourself, like your royalties. It's amazing, isn't it? I still can't believe our record companies just get away with that sort of crap. It's
Yeah, but I think when you're young, you don't understand that actually they're a bank with a
Yeah.
creative arm.
Mm,
That's what you're getting is a loan, long-term loans, but they take control of what you do.
mm,
I didn't understand that.
no,
And how would, three 16-year-old girls understand that?
no. Well, you wouldn't really, would you? So,
So, I mean, just saying.
mm, yeah, it's shocking. The same with the International Rescue. That's a really well produced video as well. That must cost a lot of money as well.
That
But
was near the 200,000 as well. That was a
yeah,
hundred and something thousand pounds.
mm,
Um, yeah, but that was, that was a really well produced video.
mm,
Sort of Pink Sunshine was all right.
mm.
Nothing like wow. Not for 200, it's not 200 grand's worth of flipping video, is it?
Would you prefer to do a Duran Duran on the yacht?
With Duran Duran or without?
Well, you can get the option.
I think we could have done both, to be fair.
Yeah.
But back
It
then
might
is
have actually been cheaper on the yacht, you know. So,
I bet it was.
mm,
Um, but sort of what was supposed to happen with the Pink Sunshine video, in the script that I got from, is it Peter? He's not called Peter Jackson, that's the Lord of the Rings, but anyway, he wanted to take us to Kenilworth Castle because it's
mm,
red, and watch the sun come down
mm.
and then have an elephant walking through for reasons that I'm still not quite clear on.
Right, okay.
Um, it would have looked spectacular,
Mm,
really would have, and it was about traveling somewhere exotic.
mm,
The elephant does actually make sense. If we'd have had a temple type of dressed up elephant, sort of go fill your suitcase with the things you haven't sold, you're sipping out,
yeah.
going, you know, going somewhere and with the colours and everything, it made so much more sense. But then, sort of he offered to do that for 5 grand. I don't know how much an elephant costs to hire per day, but it can't be that expensive.
It's not, believe me, it's about £100 a day.
It's what?
It's about £100 a day, depending on the size and that.
Of the elephant.
Yeah, I made that up.
I thought you did. Idiot. But this is a clear example of what we do. We just go, oh, really? Yeah. Size of it. Um, yeah. Uh, so, but yeah, that would have been the video that I'd have preferred. Not that I'm being mean towards people that did the one that we got.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, eventually the band stopped, which ever saw bands at some point. So, how did you all make that decision between you?
To
Just basically stop at the
I took
time.
it up. So
Yeah.
I think it was quite clear that Vix in particular had
Mm,
moved musically away from what we were doing,
yeah.
and um we'd all grown up. When you
Mm,
start in a band and you're 15 and then you get to 21,
mm,
you're a different person.
yeah.
And so, sort of it was musical differences, and also just like we need to move on. We've done
Mm,
that. And sort of I was 5 years older, and I wanted to try and go to university.
mm,
So, and do something proper. But I did work with Fuzz Townsend on a few tracks afterwards, but then sort of with me, something terrible happened, and so that didn't get to be actualized. But sort of, yeah, we all just moved on.
Mm. Okay. What did you do immediately afterwards?
What was that?
Sorry, what did you do immediately afterwards?
What was I doing immediately afterwards?
Yeah. Did you go to college and
Yeah, I went to college and got 3 A levels in a year.
brilliant? So I know you're still playing nowadays and you're still making music and doing gigs and that sort of thing. Do you just miss the old days? Do you want to get that buzz back?
Um, the past is another country. They do things differently there.
Mm,
So, so if I don't look back in that way, but
mm,
so if I still make music and I still get a thrill out of it, it's just different.
yeah.
But so writing the book and looking back at old photos and stuff,
Mm,
so you do get some really like amazing little things, and
mm,
sort of memories of stuff that you've done, and stuff that people often only dream of doing.
mm,
I've got to do that in my life.
yeah.
And it gets more meaningful as you get older, because you just realize what it is you actually did and
Mm,
how it's impacted on the opportunities of your life. Um, there's a guy that does headliners. He's a comedian, Simon somebody or other. He's a comedian, and he was talking about how he made um choices to be a comedian, and some of his friends from uni chose to be bankers or big up lawyers or whatever. And he said, well, you know I've got a small terraced house in Brighton,
mm,
and they've got these like massive you know piles somewhere. He said, but who's had the better life?
yeah.
Because they're working to keep up for the bills to pay for this massive house.
Mm,
It's working to keep the thing that they've acquired, whilst he works for the love of it.
yeah.
That's what he does. And when you look at it like that, you just think the trade-off only becomes apparent when you get older.
Mm,
Younger, you think, oh, really, so if I should be like looking towards buying the biggest house that I can possibly have, the poshest car that I could possibly have. But I was never like that.
mm.
And I think I'm quite lucky.
Do you think that you've left a really good legacy for women coming through music? Because obviously you had that record for the number of weeks on the indie charts, didn't you?
Yeah.
Um, so I think you're. I hate to use the word role model, but do you think you are one in lots of ways?
Well, can you hold on for a second
Hmm,
whilst I do something? I'll
hmm,
only be like a minute.
sure.
I'm just doing it. So I don't know whether you can see this
Oh yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
and the back of it, and then open it up.
Wow, it's amazing.
And it goes that way. But at the gigs that I've done in Birmingham, they're probably about between 18 and 22. You can't
Mm.
tell young people. But they've made this.
Mm.
It's all sort of hand done in, sort of, look at that. The legacy for a woman.
Mm.
See page 3 at the bottom.
Yeah.
Isn't isn't that just it's just amazing. So, sort of it's just a little zine, and young people, so they were both massive fans. And I was just like, oh my God, that is so amazing
Mm.
that we're still having an impact on like basically children, our grandchildren's age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so I was just really chuffed by that.
Mm.
Really, really chuffed.
Do you think you'll ever retire? Just eventually, just like never do music again, or do you think that the thrill's still there?
Um, right. I think this is actually quite an interesting question, because um I've been thinking about doing some part-time work, and sort of, but with the book and the film and everything, it's just like whatever. But I have been mentoring a young man,
Mm.
and I didn't think I'd get as much out of that as I actually have. So maybe mentoring going to the future, because the skills that you have to be an artist don't, at the core, do not change, regardless
Mm.
of the technology.
Mm.
They don't. You need to be resilient. You need to not take things personally. You need to be able to laugh things off. You need to understand that you need to be organized, that it's not some jolly jape when it comes down to it being serious. It's not.
Mm.
You need to be fully fledged sort of business person, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so these are the skills that I would like to pass on. So, and I never thought it'd be a young man that I'd be mentoring. I always
Mm.
thought it'd be a young woman. But here's the thing. We talked about sort of the subliminal misogyny and stuff.
Mm.
Right, whilst I could support a young woman through that, surely the most effective change that I could do is to teach young men to respect women.
Mm. Precisely. Yes. Yeah.
That
Absolutely. Mm.
preaching to the choir isn't going to get anybody anywhere.
Mm.
Getting young men to understand that young women are people in their own right, and they
Mm.
have feelings, and they're not just, sort of sexual objects, that they can be creatives, and they have every much right to be in the creative industry as you do.
Mm.
Surely
Yeah.
that's the real challenge.
Mm. Mm. Interesting. So,
So
well, I mean, you got a book coming out as well, and a new album. So it's all on its way. So, when do you think they're both coming out? Have you got any timelines for them?
so um for Maggie Fuzzbox Presents, we're looking at June for the album to come out, May, June, something
Yeah.
like that. The book I'm hoping to be completed by my 60th birthday, which is in June. And then the film, we don't know when that's going to come out, but I imagine in a year or so.
Mhm.
Um, but the book, although it'll be completed hopefully by June, by the time it gets published and stuff, it'll probably be out, so you can have it for your Christmas present.